stole our heritage. They stole our freedom. They stole our identity. They stole our liberty. They stole everything. The transatlantic slave trade was a horrific chapter in human history. For over 3 centuries, millions of Africans were forcibly transported to the Americas, where they were enslaved and subjected to brutal conditions.
The trade was driven by the demand for labor on plantations in the Americas, where enslaved Africans were forced to work in harsh conditions growing crops such wheat crops and etc. The conditions on slave ships were extremely terrible. The Africans were crammed into a very small piece, unsanitary spaces, and were often subject to beatings and other forms of abuse.
The rich and helpless slaves wandered through the ocean to reach the land of America. Slaves whose blinded by the cloth covered in their eyes and only felt the waves of the sea and the fear they might face. The creaking of the wooden planks echoed their hesitation as they stepped onto the unfamiliar soil of America, a land both foreign and fraught with the unknown. There was someone who's already waiting for them to arrive. With a determined gleam in his eyes, he stood amidst the lively chaos, with his slaves ready to trade, and also holding the items they wished to trade.
The slave trade had a devastating impact on Africa. It led to the depopulation of entire regions and the destruction of African cultures. The transatlantic slave trade was finally abolished in the 19th century. However, the legacy of the trade continues to be felt today. The abolition of transatlantic slave trade was a long and difficult process. It was driven by a complex combination of factors, including ideological, religious, and economic change in Europe and in the Americas. The Enlightenment, an 18th century intellectual movement, played a key role in development of abolitionism. Enlightenment thinkers believed in the natural rights of people, including the right to liberty. This belief changed the idea that Africans were inferior and could be enslaved.
Abolitionists also drew on religious arguments to justify their cause. Many Christians believed that slavery was a sin and that it was their duty to fight for its abolition. The rise of evangelical Christianity in the 18th and 19th centuries also contributed to the abolitionist movement. Evangelical Christians believed that slavery was incompatible with Christian values and that it was their duty to work for its abolition.
The economic slavery also changed in the 19th century. Slavery became less profitable as the demand for sugar and other commodities produced by slave labor declined. This abolition made palatable to some policymakers and businessmen. Great Britain was the very first major to abolish the horrible transatlantic slave trade in 1807, and the United States followed suit in 1808. However, this ban is not still fully effective, and the illegal slave trade are still continued for many years.
In the several years, European powers signed treaties agreeing to cooperate to suppress the illegal slave trade. These treaties established patrols in African and Caribbean waters to intercept slave ships.
Brazil and Cuba were the last two major importers of enslaved Africans. Brazil abolished the slave trade in 1850 and Cuba followed suit in 1867.
The transatlantic slave trade had a profound and lasting impact on the world. It resulted in the deaths of millions of Africans and the displacements of millions more. It also led to the development of racist ideologies that continue to have an impact today. The abolition of the transatlantic slave trade was a major victory for human rights. It showed that it is possible to overcome even the most entrenched systems of oppression. I had reasoned this out in my mind. There was one of two things I had right to: liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other.
Stop slavery.
Black Lives Matter.
All lives matter.